everyone. Welcome back to many of you. Thank you for attending our second Walk the Talk speaker series. So if you haven't been here before, what is Walk the Talk? Walk the Talk is a TED Talk inspired speaker series that's based on a spiritual nature. And what we mean by spirit is mean the things that drive us all, like compassion, love, understanding, acceptance. Those are the things that drive us all. Our goal with Walk the Talk is for you to get food for your soul, and that you take that and take what you learned from the speakers tonight and you use it in your everyday life to walk the talk. It's real simple. It all starts right here. Our topic tonight is love in action. So what is love in action? Well, we've all experienced love in action through giving or receiving love from family, friends, pets, lovers. I feel that to really love someone is to truly care about them and give them that care 100% unconditionally. Now, unconditional is a big word, but we can do that. That is so important. How do you feel love? How do you give and receive love in action? That is a question to ask yourself. Love is so important. Tonight, we have 6 speakers, loving speakers, who are going to share their story of love in action with you tonight. So please welcome our first speaker, Dr. Erin Leonard.
Some nights, when I'm putting my kids to bed, instead of whispering, "I love you" in their ear, I whisper, "I love who you are." Love is the most precious thing in our lives. Love is the conduit to happiness, joy, comfort, and peace. Love heals us. Research shows that adults who have loving and close relationships suffer far less from anxiety and depression. Research also shows that children and adolescents who have a loving and close relationship with a parent are far more well-adjusted and happy. So why is love so fleeting? Why do 50% of our marriages fail? Why do some of our kids just not want to talk to us? Because we are missing the 2 necessities for sustaining love and closeness in our relationships. Those 2 things are not money or time. Those 2 things are empathy and accountability. Empathy is simply trying to understand how your loved one feels and honoring it. Empathy only requires 2 things: selflessness and an emotional shift. A mom was buried in a very stressful work issue in her home office when her daughter walked in. Her daughter was yelling and crying about how she hated the idea of first grade. She wasn't going to go. There was nothing her mom could do or say to make her go. She hated school, and she was not going. Since first grade didn't start for 4 weeks, and the mom wanted nothing more than to resolve her own issue, she really wanted to send her daughter to her room to calm down. But she resisted that impulse. Instead, she selflessly set aside her work. She set aside her own desires and her own feelings and her own thoughts, and she shifted to her daughter. And she said to her daughter, "You're so upset. You are so upset. What is it about the first grade?" And her daughter said, "Well, it's not one thing, Mom, it's 5. What if the teacher's mean? What if none of my friends are in my class? What if the day is too long? What if it's too hard? What if I miss you too much?" And the mom, who in her head had a reasonable response to all of those issues. The day was as long as it was in kindergarten. She handled that. Her daughter was pretty smart. She knew first grade wouldn't be an issue. Her daughter had 13 best friends. There were 2 first grade classes. Odds were in her favor that a few friends would be in her class. The mom knew both teachers. Both teachers were lovely. And of course her daughter would miss her. She would miss her daughter. But she resisted the impulse to say any of those things. Instead, she looked at her daughter and she said, "Those are big worries. Honey, those are big worries. I get it. And if I were you, I wouldn't want to go into the first grade either. And her daughter immediately softened and came to her, got into her lap, and after a few minutes of cuddling, the mom said to her, "Baby, if any of those things happen, if any of your worries come true, I will be there for you. I will be there with you. I promise you, you will not be alone." After a few more minutes of cuddling, the mom said to her daughter, "What do you think would help? Would meeting your teacher help? Would finding out what friends are in your class help? Would shopping for new first grade supplies help?" And of course, her daughter chose shopping. And on the first day of school, her daughter went off to school with a big smile on her face and not a worry in the world. Empathy, two very important things need to be clarified about empathy. The first is empathy is not sympathy, and it should never be confused as such. Sympathy, or feeling sorry for someone, strips them of their self-efficacy, and it allows for enabling behaviors. None of those things are good for anybody, ever. The second thing that needs to be clarified about empathy is just because you empathize with someone's feelings doesn't mean you condone their behavior. It is as simple as saying to your son, "You're angry, I get it, you have every right, but you can't throw your backpack, go pick it up." When empathy happens within a couple, a romantic relationship, a marriage, sometimes it sounds like this. "She's oversensitive, she's over-emotional, she needs therapy." Or, "He's an idiot, he doesn't know anything." Often, one person has a lack of empathy for their partner because they believe that if they truly try to understand how their partner feels, somehow they're admitting defeat or fault or guilt. Not true. Sometimes one person has a lack of empathy for their partner because they believe if they truly try to understand their partner's feelings and their perspective, somehow they're surrendering their own. Not true. Sometimes one person has a lack of empathy for their partner because they believe that they have to understand and agree with every detail and nuance of why their partner feels the way they do. Not true. When all else fails, break everything down, strip everything back, and say something like, "You're hurting. I can tell. I'm here. You're not alone." Accountability. Accountability. Owning your mistakes in the relationship. All human beings make mistakes every day of their life. It's inevitable that we will make mistakes in our relationships. So if you're not saying sorry to your loved ones at least once a month, you're not accountable in the relationship, and that is a problem. Accountability repairs ruptures and it sustains trust. A mom was desperately trying to get herself to work and her children to school on time. And she said to her young son, "Honey, put on your socks and shoes and tie your shoes. We're almost ready to get in the car." She went into the kitchen to put her mug in the sink, and her son came running towards her. He had a muffin in his hand. He got her attention. He gestured down, and just then he took a bite of his muffin. The muffin crumbled all over the floor. And the mom assumed he was being a clown and trying to be silly, making a mess of her floor, and she was furious. And she yelled at him. And his face fell, he burst into tears, and he looked at her and he said, "I hate you." And he ran for the garage door. And the mom stood there, confused. What just happened? And she thought hard. And she remembered that while he was running to the garage door, she realized he had his socks and his shoes on, and his shoes were tied. She realized she'd made a mistake. She surrendered herself to the fact that she would be late for work and her kids would be late for school, and she walked herself out to the garage got into the cold back seat where her son was balled up and crying, and she said to him, I made a big mistake. I made a very big mistake. And I'm sorry. And her son said to her, It's okay, Mom. Everyone went to work and school that day feeling loved. The most painful thing in life is realizing that we have hurt someone that we love. We quickly defend against it with rationalizations, excuses, and justifications. And the worst offense yet, we point the finger back at them sometimes. Nothing can destroy the trust quicker. Accountability repairs the ruptures and sustains the trust. Empathy maintains the closeness. When people were asked what superpower they would choose if they could choose one, there were a variety of answers. X-ray vision, invisibility. But when people were asked what they would do with that superpower, all the answers were very similar. People would either protect their loved ones or they would heal their loved ones. What if I told you that you had that superpower? What if I told you that you've had that superpower for as long as you've been alive? Consider this. Empathy is the only thing that has fueled every act of heroism since the beginning of humanity. Empathy is the only thing in life that allows us to transcend our own physical limits. Empathy is a bit like telepathy, but instead of reading someone's thoughts, you can read what's in their heart. Empathy, the experience of empathy, changes the human brain for the good. It changes and heals the human brain. Empathy is the purest form of love. We need to cultivate it in our youth, implement it in our relationships, and use it to transform our world. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Accountability and empathy. Wow. This all creates new definitions, these words for me as well. I'm sure it does everybody here.